Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to NC State's sixth annual 3-minute thesis competition. Obviously, due to COVID, this will be our first online 3MT competition. My name is Peter Harries, and I'm Dean of the Graduate School at NC State. And today I'm very capably assisted with the Zoom technology by two people from our office, Joe Aldinger and Darren White. We're incredibly excited to have you with us at this year's virtual 3-minute thesis. And a warm welcome to our extended Wolfpack family and friends tuning in from NC State, off campus, across the country, and even around the world. There are silver linings to the virtual environment, and broadening access to this event is one of those elements. At NC State, our graduate students are leading research efforts across campus that have substantial impacts on North Carolina, the nation, and the world. Graduate students are diverse, collaborative innovators who put the think and do into NC State's motto. As I like to say, graduate students really think and do. As a land-grant university, NC State graduate students are not only dedicated towards conducting innovative research, but sharing that passion for discovery and change with the community, whether that community be family, friends, politicians, lobbyists, schools, or neighbors, and to invite them to be part of the research happening here. And certainly being able to communicate science in a way that's understandable is becoming ever more critical in our country and in the world, where there are questions about science, and having skills to relate that research is so critically important. Today, we're here to view 10 of those outstanding graduate students present their research in 3 minutes or less via video. The 3MT program is a research communication competition that was initially developed by the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. The goal of the competition is to challenge graduate students to present a compelling oration of their thesis and dissertation research and its significance in just 3 minutes to an informed but not expert audience. 3MT develops academic, presentation, and research communication skills and supports the development of research students' capacity to effectively explain their research in language appropriate for a non-specialist audience. In this year's virtual format, presenters face the additional challenge of communicating their research with a single take video. They couldn't splice things together to make the perfect take. It had to be done in one shot. To all the competitors, both those taking part in the finals today, and also those who submitted entries, we had approximately 45 entries, let me be the first to offer you congratulations. Thanks for adapting to this environment and for a job well done. Once again, we're thrilled to present our first ever virtual 3MT program here at NC State. Thank you all for tuning in to support these outstanding graduate students and their research efforts. Getting into a bit of the details about how this process works, today's first and second place winners were selected through the efforts of our judging panel. And a big thank you to Dr. Barclay Satterfield. She is the External Innovation Technology Manager for Eastman Chemical Company here. And she helps to lead an office that supports collaborative research partnerships between NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, and the University of Tennessee, together with Eastman Chemical. We also have Dr. Nelly Voland-Lochner. Dr. Voland is originally from France and is a lead development engineer for General Electric's Healthcare's Magnetic Resonance Division. For over 15 years, she has been involved in the design of medical device hardware with experience in industry, academia, and clinical research settings. And finally, we have Dr. Sarah C. Windsor. She is a STEM community builder and has extensive leadership experience in the nonprofit, academic, and government sectors, most recently as the director of STEM RTP, the STEM Education Initiative of the Research Triangle Foundation. I really want to thank them for all their efforts, and it was certainly a challenge to view these and select the winners given the talent that exists. So now let's go over the background and the rules a little bit. Audience, just so you know some of the rules, our competitors are only allowed 3 minutes, and as I mentioned, in a one-take video, and with a single static PowerPoint slide to convey their story to you. So no moving pictures are allowed, no flashing lights, no interpretive dances, no creative special effects, just the brilliance of their research as reflected in their words and in that one slide. The competitors you're seeing today through this have advanced through a preliminary round of competition where they were selected out of a total of 47 video presentations to move forward to today's finals. Now, what's up for grabs? First place today is $1,000 and the chance to compete in the online 3MT regional competition in the spring. Second place is $750. Finally, there's a last award, and it's called the People's Choice Award. And this means that each of you has a job today to do as well. Each audience member is allowed 1 vote for the People's Choice, a $500 cash prize for the presenter you think is most effective. Make sure to cast your vote through the link that we will provide on screen after all the presentations have been made. We will give you 5 minutes to vote for the People's Choice, and then we will announce the winners live today. Okay, now that you know the rules, let's get started. I'll be introducing the speakers and an interesting factoid about each one of them. So our first presenter today is Dylan Bates, a PhD student in applied mathematics. And interestingly enough, he's taking part in one of the COVID-19 vaccine trials. Today, he'll be talking about balancing a pole, a machine learning perspective. And take it away, Dylan.
If you've ever tried to balance a pole in your hand, you probably discovered it's pretty tricky, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. Hi, my name is Dylan Bates, and I'm using machine learning to make a computer teach itself how to balance a pole. Machine learning, a subset of AI, can often seem like magic. Through the different techniques of machine learning, computers can now do incredible things like diagnose cancer patients more accurately than doctors, play video games better than professionals, and generate works of art in the style of Mozart, Shakespeare, or Van Gogh. But it isn't magic, it's just math. In each of these applications, all that's happening is a computer is using a specific algorithm to minimize some function that could have thousands, millions, or even billions of parameters. We can harness the fact that all of these take place on a computer to speed up the development of control systems that can be implemented in the real world in applications like robotics or self-driving cars. So what does this have to do with balancing a pole? Well, let's imagine our setup as a cart with a pole on top. Using some of the same techniques from machine learning, we can input things that we know about the state of the pole, like its position, angle, and velocity, and it will output its best guess of how much the cart needs to move left or right in order to keep the pole balanced. We can do this by using a reward function. You can think of this like giving the computer some reward, like an M&M, for every fraction of a second it's able to keep the pole balanced. At this point, we can run a simulation until the pole falls, then use our algorithm to update all our parameters so the pole is more likely to balance in the future. Then, just repeat this over and over and over again, maximizing the number of virtual M&Ms it gets until it learns how to balance on its own. Ultimately, we can use the same process to train a self-driving car to drive in a simulation, letting it experience hazardous conditions like snow or near misses without putting the driver or the $100,000 car at risk. What makes my research unique is we can do this process entirely on a computer, harnessing the power of graphics cards to run hundreds or thousands of trials in minutes instead of hours. Once it's done, once it's taught itself how to balance a virtual pole or drive a virtual car, we can use the same function it learned to balance a pole or drive a car in the real world. The idea of using machine learning to balance a pole is just a proof of concept that can make other machine learning applications more efficient, letting computers do all the work before implementing what they learn in real life. Large, complex systems where data is dangerous, expensive, or difficult to obtain, like cars, satellites, or even reusable rockets. All of these could benefit from this cheaper, faster, computer-assisted process. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan, for that first presentation. Our next presentation is from Sama Amin, and she's a master's student in plant pathology and is excited about her research because tomatoes are one of her favorite fruits. Today, Sama will be presenting on All is Fair in Wilt and War.
For centuries, civilizations have been in conflict with one another for survival, resources, and economic prosperity. In this way, we are not much different from bacteria. As we engage in conflict above ground and in plain view, a hidden war transpires below ground and is costing us on a global scale over $1 billion annually. At the center of this phenomenon is Ralstonia solanacearum, a plant pathogenic bacterium that limits global crop production and is a causal agent of bacterial wilt disease in tomato and brown rot potato. This bacteria affects other major crops such as eggplants, peppers, tobacco, and bananas. Imagine your salsa and spaghetti sauce without freshly chopped tomatoes, your hamburgers without a side of your favorite crispy fries, or your baba ganoush without roasted eggplants. This disease affects countries worldwide and is particularly devastating in the tropics, where a large percentage of the food insecure population lives and depends on agriculture for sustenance. This pathogen can have serious economic ramifications for growers, as once established in the field, it is difficult to eradicate, leaving farmers no choice but to abandon that land completely. Currently available disease management strategies have limited success, and some are dangerous to the environment. So what is the solution to this microscopic threat that impacts our survival, resources, and prosperity? Well, why not use their own weapons against them? Ralstonia competes for resources against closely related groups of bacteria by producing and injecting toxic proteins to slow or kill its competitors. What is amazing about these toxins is that they can precisely target a bacterial cell type. By understanding how bacteria compete, we can engineer and develop environmentally safe tactics to manage Ralstonia and use their own weapons against them. Towards this end, I'm studying how these toxins function in Ralstonia. To date, I have found that there are some cells that carry 2 toxins, while other cells carry 13 or more. The diversity in how these toxins function vary greatly. Some break down competitor cell DNA, while others probe holes into cell wall membranes. In other words, some kill from the outside in, while others kill from the inside out. The question now is, how can we engineer these toxins for our benefit? To answer this question, I'm looking into individual toxin genes in Ralstonia and identifying their modes of action, method of delivery, environmental viability, and their competitor profiles. In doing so, we can identify the best toxin or toxins to use to specifically target bacterial populations and halt their march before reaching the host plant, preventing the colonization of the host plant and the development of disease, hence mitigating agricultural loss, economic impact, and most importantly, the dishes we love to eat.
Thank you so much, Sama, for that presentation about tomatoes. Our next presenter is Meredith Hovis, a PhD student in forestry and environmental resources. And she has also studied what I think are among the most fascinating organisms out there, leafcutter ants in Costa Rica. But today she's presenting on Floodwise, a water farming program to mitigate future floodwaters. Take it away, Meredith.
No one likes flooding. Whether it's happened in your basement or your backyard before, typically nothing good comes from it. Throughout the years, we've seen the extreme detrimental impacts from floodwaters, mainly brought about by heavy rainfall, hurricanes, or dam failures. Heavy rainfall and river flooding are top indicators of global climate change. And unfortunately, as the climate continues to change, we can expect to experience more frequent and more intense storms, resulting in more flooding. Here in North Carolina each year, it is a common sight, especially in the coastal plain, to see homes, businesses, and farms devastated by floodwaters, mainly brought about by hurricanes. Hurricane Florence in 2018 and Hurricane Matthew in 2016 hit the same agricultural communities back to back, taking 85 human lives and causing $17.6 billion in losses, much of which were agricultural crops and livestock. These communities can no longer afford to experience the repercussions from flooding. So what do? What if we could farm the floodwaters? Farming is about knowing the lay of the land and working with the land and livestock to make the most out of what we can. What if I told you that there is a method that could redefine the concepts of farming? The method is called water farming, and my research hypothesizes that it is a solution for mitigating our future floodwaters. Water farming uses natural land features as opposed to traditional human-engineered systems that are made from concrete, such as dams or levees. Traditional human-engineered systems are highly hazardous, outdated, and have failed to function when needed the most. My research suggests that nature-based practices are a more sustainable approach to flood management. So you're probably wondering, what does a natural defense system to flood management look like? Well, there are a variety of approaches, such as restoring wetlands, planting forested areas, expanding floodplains. Nature-based solutions like forests and wetlands can slow down water from storms and store water for an extended period of time. In fact, I have found that water flow could be reduced by more than 30% at downstream if nature-based practices are employed. My research focuses on the top and most effective water farming practices for individual landowners and agricultural communities in eastern North Carolina. We have coined our line of work Floodwise, and our program ensures landowners with the educational tools and financial incentives for adopting nature-based practices on their properties. Dear audience, flooding and storms will continue, and we need to be prepared. We must take precautionary measures and invest in Floodwise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meredith. Our fourth presenter today is Saeed Ahmadi Olunubudi, and he is a PhD student in design, and he would like to thank his best English teacher, his 10-year-old daughter Yasna, who was the sounding board for this presentation. And what he will talk about today is let's augment community engagement with augmented reality. Take it away, Saeed.
A few years back, I attended a community meeting about an upcoming street improvement in our neighborhood. I had so many things to share, but I didn't get enough time because of my language barriers. One of the community leaders even couldn't attend due to some family emergencies. But not having enough time or an emergency or anything like that shouldn't prevent us from participating in matters that would impact our communities. Fortunately, and with the help of digital technologies such as online surveys or virtual meetings, we now have the opportunity to fully express our ideas anytime and from anywhere. Well, not really. Regardless of the meeting being in person or virtual, many participants would have a hard time understanding the scale or the location of future projects just by seeing their maps on the wall or beautiful renderings on computer screens. What if there was a technology that would let you envision the future design right in its location and even before it's built? The good news is the technology is out there. Do you remember a couple of years ago, people were all around the place with their smartphones catching Pokemons that did not physically exist? They use a technology called augmented reality that superimposes digital data, whatever it might be, a Pokemon, an image, or I would say 3D models of future designs into the real world. For my PhD, I've developed a platform equipped with augmented reality to enable community members view the design overlaid on their surrounding environment and even interact with it. They can add missing features, manipulate them instantly, vote on their preferred design, and share their ideas with fellow residents and decision makers on the go and from the palm of their hands. Smartphones are now everywhere. More than 81% of Americans now own a smartphone. For 26% of lower income Americans, smartphones are the only way to interact with the digital world. More importantly, a smartphone is the only digital technology that is equally owned by different racial and ethnic groups. I've been working with a group of communities of color in North Carolina that have inequitable access to street elements such as sidewalk that make neighborhoods healthy and safe. I've implemented and assessed my platform and found that augmented reality is a great addition to current community engagement methods. It improves participation by letting people be in the actual space and discover things they didn't notice on paper. My hope is that by using my platform, we can achieve a more accessible, a more intuitive, and beyond that, a more inclusive community engagement, so everyone can participate in making their neighborhoods better places to live. Thank you.
And thank you, Saeed. Our next presenter is S.M. Azizul Hoque, a PhD student in textile technology. And although this sounds a bit strange during this COVID time, he likes to take long layover flights so that he can visit different places while traveling. And today, he'll be talking about comparative analysis of digital versus traditional textile printing. Azizul.
Hello everyone, let me start with a question. How many of you are currently wearing a dress or sitting near a textile product that is printed? If you find it difficult to identify a printed product, look at both sides of the fabrics. Printed products only contain coloration on technical phase or design side. Well, there are a few exceptions, like flags and scarves. They contain coloration on both sides. Chances are you all own some printed products, whether apparel or home furnishing. Textile printing is a 150 billion market and a popular market trend. Here are some facts regarding printing. It requires 6 to 12 weeks to print with traditional techniques. Chemical and energy costs are very high. As much as 60 liters of water is used to print 1 meter fabric. Moreover, excess dyes and chemicals may enter waterways from improper handling. Traditional printing can be performed in various techniques, such as blocks, flat screen, or rotary screen. In my research, I am investigating an emerging printing technology, digital printing, and comparing it to rotary printing, which is the most predominant traditional printing process. To do so, I have developed a comprehensive survey instrument to collect industrial data on associated costs and environmental impacts. Textile industry has started to embrace digital printing for its ability to print with increased number of colors and greater print quality. It is believed to be a fast and environment-friendly process. However, these advantages have not yet been quantified properly. With my analysis, companies will be able to take more informed decisions by identifying cost burdens and key improvement areas. Initial data reveals that digital printing utilizes 1/5 amount of water, 30% less energy, and only 10% chemicals compared to conventional ones. As I collect and analyze more data, I am hoping to identify the fastest and most cost-efficient sustainable printing process. This might will encourage manufacturers to choose printing process wisely. So guys, next time during shopping, think about how your colorful printed item may improve in future, both in quality and complexity in design, as well as sustainability of the coloration process. And remember, NC State is helping to improve this process. Thank you.
And thank you, Azizul. Our sixth presenter is Semran Ahmed Kushum. He is a PhD student in civil engineering and began gardening this spring with a great harvest of tomatoes, chilies, and bell peppers. I guess like many of us, taking up new hobbies under COVID.
Imagine you step outside and you're suddenly ankle deep in sweat. It stings and you're angry. Why would this be happening? Swell backups happen when gigantic solid deposits accumulate inside of swell lines that ends up clogging the pipes. But the question is, how do these solid deposits get there? You'll be surprised to hear it, but we are responsible for this. Let me ask you, what do you do with excess fat, oil, and grease after cooking? Many people pour it down the kitchen sink where it ends up in the swell system. There, it reacts with calcium to form the swell giant known as fog deposits. In the United States, around 2 billion gallons of untreated wastewater are released annually because of fog deposits, costing $25 billion of taxpayers' dollars to clean up. So don't be surprised if your basement or street is flooded with sewage one day. But don't get frightened as well, because I have a solution. Fog deposit formation requires two key ingredients, fat, oil, and grease, and calcium. Calcium comes from the cement used in swell line construction. Cement has two calcium components, calcium hydroxide, where the calcium is loosely bonded and can easily release calcium. The other one is calcium silicate hydrates, where the calcium is strongly bonded. To minimize fog deposit formation, I am replacing a percentage of cement with fly ash, because fly ash has two major benefits. It is very low in calcium content and it can react with cement to convert calcium hydroxide to calcium silicate hydrates that does not release calcium readily. But where can I find fly ash? Fly ash is a byproduct of coal-fired power plants, and power plant companies are looking for safer ways to get rid of it. I found that 50% fly ash replacement can reduce fog deposit formation by 55%. When I started this research, my aim was to reduce swell giants. But as I progressed through this, I realized my work can benefit in multiple ways. It can reduce fog deposit formation and save a chunk of taxpayers' money. It can use fly ash and reduce water waste contamination. And finally, it can save a lot of money by reducing soil and construction cost. So, I am doing my part to fight swell giants, and you can too by not pouring fat, oil, and grease down the kitchen sink. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumrin, for those great hints. Our next presenter is Nicholas Faulkner, and he's a PhD student in microbiology and loves to travel, and so far has set foot in 3 continents.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. You know the symbol. It's been around since the first Earth Day in 1970 and has been drilled in our schools and PSAs in the decades since. Today, going green is all the rage. But what comes to mind when you think about recycling? Likely the separation of bottles and cans and cardboard and putting them in their respective bins. But what about the recycling that's going on all around us? It's in the soil, it's in the water, it's in your intestines, and it's all thanks to microbes. So why don't we harness their power for our recycling? That's exactly what my research does. It focuses on the repurpose and reuse of a small chemical, isobutylene, seen in the middle of my slide. Isobutylene is used in the production of plastics and rubbers and cosmetics and fuels, and not a day goes by that you don't interact with something that started from this chemical. In fact, it's in such high demand that you can count it the same way you did playing tag. 1,000 pounds, 1,000 pounds. Now, while isobutylene itself isn't that harmful, its natural byproducts are. So let's get to recycling. A lab I work in found on this very campus a microbe that can eat isobutylene. And while doing so, it actually produces more industrially relevant chemicals. There it is again. Reduce, reuse, recycle. We reduce the toxic byproduct, reuse the original chemical, and recycle it into other important chemicals. But it's not enough to know that it can do it, it's important to know how. So I dove deep and determined the entire genetic makeup of this organism. From those 6.5 million A's, T's, C's, and G's, I was able to determine the genes responsible for isobutylene metabolism. I even produced one individually to prove that it can work in vitro, without microbes present. And while doing so, I determined that this thing actually works on other chemicals as well. So it's not a stretch to imagine that if I mess with this or add other genes, we can actually take care of other harmful chemicals too. What's more, this whole system seems to be controlled on something that's akin to a dimmer switch. The more recyclable material that's there, the harder and faster and stronger it works. So next time you're holding a bottle or that styrofoam takeout, don't just think about recycling those products. Remember, the world around you is recycling too, and we can make it better. All we have to do is look at the mechanisms behind how nature itself can reduce, reuse, and recycle. Thank you.
And thank you, Nick. Our eighth presenter today is Caitlin Bacon, a PhD student in chemical engineering, and she has studied abroad in South Korea. And today she'll be talking about giving genetic disease the Henry Ford treatment.
Have you ever considered that part of your story may be written before you're even born due to the DNA you inherit? Let's consider a young girl named Evelyn who was born with spinal muscular atrophy. This debilitating disease will likely leave Evelyn unable to breathe on her own simply because she inherited a genetic mutation. Evelyn, however, was able to rewrite her story due to a revolutionary gene therapy treatment that introduces copies of the DNA that are missing from her genome. Because of this treatment, Evelyn today is a healthy, thriving 6-year-old. Her story is truly inspiring. However, her treatment was one of the most expensive drug therapies ever, costing over $2 million. At this high price, gene therapy is simply not accessible to the majority of patients. So why does gene therapy cost so much? The main driver is a lack of standardized manufacturing. In their infancy, automobiles too were plagued by high costs for similar reasons. However, over the last 100 years, the price of a car has fallen significantly due to standardized manufacturing, which was first implemented by Henry Ford in his idea of the assembly line. Think about it. Today, almost every family can afford a car. Likewise, the accessibility of gene therapy treatments will continue to improve as standardized manufacturing is implemented. Gene therapy treatments rely on the use of a viral-based delivery vehicle to transfer DNA to patients. Multiple vehicle variants exist, each with their own pros and cons. All vehicles are produced by special cell lines and bioreactors. Process-related impurities must be removed prior to injection into humans. This is generally accomplished by flowing the reactor's contents over a capture surface that is functionalized with an engineered protein that can bind the delivery vehicle while the impurities flow through as waste. While this capture step seems straightforward to implement in a standardized fashion, it is complicated by the fact that each type of delivery vehicle currently requires its own unique capture agent for purification. This limitation impedes standardized manufacturing across different gene therapy products. When considering the automobile, Henry Ford took great strides to simplify manufacturing. He went as far as only producing the Model T in one color to save time and money. In a similar vein, my research has focused on simplifying one critical piece of gene therapy production. I'm trying to identify a single capture agent that can be used to purify the most common DNA delivery vehicles. Throughout my PhD, I've developed tools to engineer proteins with novel binding activity. I've applied these tools to generate proteins that can bind conserved regions between common delivery vehicles. In turn, these engineered binding proteins can be used as a universal capture agent to standardize manufacturing. Just as Henry Ford standardized the production of the automobile, I am standardizing the production of gene therapy products.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Our penultimate presenter is Salvatore Luiso, a PhD student also in chemical engineering, who has a Master of Arts in clarinet. He'll be speaking today on an ideal structure for lithium-ion battery separators.
Have you ever been stuck in traffic? And maybe you thought that there were too many cars or too many people, or that whoever designed the road network didn't think about so many individuals flowing at the same time from one side of the city to the other. Whenever there is a movement of many individuals, the network in which they move is a key factor for a smooth, uninterrupted flow. In a similar way, a battery separator provides the road network for the lithium ions to flow from one electrode to the other. The battery separator is the only thing preventing the electrodes to come in contact and to develop an electrical short inside the cell. The FAA reports that on average, a battery fire on a plane occurs every 10 days. Reports of exploding cell phones have been published in newspapers, and batteries from Apple, HP, Toshiba, Lenovo, Dell, and other manufacturers were recalled due to fires and explosions. A battery separator is only 1/1000th of an inch thick, yet it's the only safety measure to prevent your cell phone, laptop, or car battery from catching on fire. In the past 5 years, I worked to understand and design the ideal network to improve the safety and stability of lithium-ion battery separators by simply using fibers, just like the ones that make up your clothes. The idea was to create membranes with an existing technology, but to extend it to an application that was never explored before. First, we use a process called melt blowing, which is commonly used to make wipes, filters, or even face masks by simply ejecting fibers into air to create inexpensive, thermally stable, and efficient membranes. In my research, I found out that not only these membranes work as battery separators, but that a specific combination of microfibers and nanofibers improve the stability of the battery. The microfibers gives the scaffolding with high strength, while the nanofibers drape over the microfibers to create the ideal network for the lithium ions. But I didn't stop there. To prove that this was indeed the ideal network, I used a different process, and this time the fibers were ejected into a turbulent liquid flow. Well, it turns out that even with these new separators, the same combination of micropores and nanopores gives the highest stability and the best performance. Just like the combination of highways and residential streets reduces the traffic congestion in our cities. Could you imagine living in a city where there are only highways or only residential streets? Traffic would be a nightmare. By creating the ideal network for the lithium ions, these specific separator structures could improve the stability of next generation lithium-ion batteries, decrease the chance of failures, and keep you safe from battery fires. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Salvatore. Our final presenter is Bram Frohock, a PhD student in chemistry, and congratulations is due to him because he recently got engaged to the love of his life. Today, Bram will be talking about battling biofilms.
When I was a kid, there were two things that I really disliked doing: going to the dentist and chores, especially cleaning the bathroom. Now, as an adult, I recognize the importance of going to the dentist and cleaning your bathroom. But I also realize that these two activities share one main thing in common with a key component of my research: biofilms. Biofilms are a surface-attached community of bacteria that make a gel containing proteins, sugars, and DNA in order to protect themselves from antibiotics and the environment around them. Now, dental plaques are a type of biofilm made from the bacteria inside your mouth. And that pink stuff inside your sinks and showers at home, that's another biofilm made from another bacteria. Now, these biofilms are much more common and much less harmful, especially compared to a biofilm infection on a hip implant. Because biofilms increase bacterial survivability on surfaces such as medical implants, hospital equipment, and clothing, they are implicated in as many as 80% of human bacterial infections, ranging from endocarditis to cystic fibrosis. In addition, bacteria inside of the biofilm are 10 to 1,000 times more resistant against antibiotics relative to a single bacterium. So, if biofilms are rendering our antibiotics ineffective, what can we do? Currently, the FDA has no approved drug for the treatment of a bacterial biofilm. However, our research group was interested in taking on this challenge. We were inspired by a small class of molecules isolated from sea sponges called synoxazolidinones. So I went out and synthesized a whole new set of synoxazolidinone derivatives in order to evaluate their properties against methicillin-resistant staph, or MRSA, biofilms. To our delight, we identified several molecules that were able to successfully inhibit the formation of MRSA biofilms, as well as break up or disperse preformed MRSA biofilms. Going one step further, we collaborated with our colleagues at the College of Veterinary Medicine, and we were able to confirm that our molecules significantly reduce the amount of living bacteria inside of a much more robust and realistic biofilm model. Finally, we were able to show that our molecules, in combination with FDA-approved antibiotics, significantly increased the efficacy of the antibiotic 8-fold using only a small amount of our molecule. At the end of the day, we have a very long road ahead of us before we deliver the world's first biofilm treatment. However, we have shown with our research that these synoxazolidinone derivatives are a great starting point for the development of an anti-MRSA biofilm agent.
Thank you, Bram, for that final presentation. And first of all, right now, let's give all of our presenters a virtual round of applause for their efforts. It's clear that there is just fantastic research going on this campus, and that these students have the ability to really translate that into a way that can be readily understood. So at this point, it's time for you, the audience, to take part in the process. And so we've heard from our 10 finalists in this competition, and now it's time for you to vote for the People's Choice Award. So please take out your phones or open a tab in your browser and use the Go link, go.ncsu.edu/3mt-vote, and select the name of the competitor that you think did the best job at presenting their research. Remember, while all the presentations were phenomenal, you can only vote for one, and your email address is required when casting your vote. The voting will be open for the next 5 minutes. And at the end of that time, we will announce the People's Choice Award winner, along with our first and second place winners. While you are voting for the People's Choice, I do want to take a moment and thank a range of people without whom this competition would not have been so successful. First of all, the Graduate School's professional development team, who coordinates the 3MT process, from leading introductory workshops to coaching the finalists. A big thanks to Assistant Dean Laura DeMars, Katie Homar, Joe Aldinger, Vanessa Dorio Anderson, and Chris Smith, who are all members of that professional development team. Also, the Graduate School's communications team. Special thanks to them for their help with the logistics of today's contest and in promoting it on social media. And the people there to thank are Natalie Hampton, Darren White, and Beth Philemon. I also want to thank our preliminary judges. The preliminary work provided essential feedback to each graduate student contestant to help them hone their oral presentation to what you saw today. Special thanks to Brent Lancaster, Nate DeGraff, Greer Arthur, April Kedrovich, Molly Rapp, and Matt Shipman. Without your efforts in making this, we wouldn't have been able to select the 10 finalists we have today. It's also really critical to recognize the faculty, mentors, and advisors who have helped our finalists get to today's contest. We've witnessed the evidence of your work and support today, and you should each be very proud of these outstanding researchers, students, competitors, and communicators. A hearty thanks to all the mentors and advisors watching today that have made this a reality. And as a final reminder, if you haven't voted yet for your favorite speaker in the People's Choice Contest, time is running out, so please use that Go link at go.ncsu.edu/3mt-vote to vote now. Once again, that's go.ncsu.edu/3mt-vote. We'll be back in a moment once the final People's Choice Awards have been tallied. Well, welcome back, everybody. And now it's time to reveal the winners. And before we do that, we have one important thing to do, and that's really to congratulate the incredible competitors that we had today. Great work to each and every one of you. Your research is super impressive, and it's just great to see the efforts that people made to do this even in a virtual environment. So let's get to the winners. First of all, we have our People's Choice winner. And as I mentioned earlier, they receive a $500 prize. And thank you, audience, for voting. And your favorite speaker is Meredith Hovis. Congratulations, Meredith. The second place winner is, and the judges here have chosen Salvatore Luiso. Salvatore, is there anyone that you want to thank?
I'm very excited. Thank you, Dean Harris. I want to thank first and foremost my advisor, Dr. Peter Fecchio, and my wife, Angela, for supporting me in this, and my parents, Giacomo and Viola, who are watching me from Italy. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you so much. And now let's move on to the first place winner. In first place, the judges have chosen Bram Frohock. Bram, is there anyone you would like to thank?
Yes, thanks, Dean Harries. I would like to thank my family and friends and my lab mates for supporting me through this. And I would like to thank Meraki Motion Pictures or my friend Dave for letting me borrow his camera and lights. Thank you, and I love everybody that's watching, and thanks for watching and tuning in.
Congratulations again, Bram. I mean, as you could tell from this, it was a very tight competition, but everyone did so marvelously. It was really hard for the judges to select a winner. This spring, Bram will go on to represent NC State at the Council of Southern Graduate Schools online regional 3MT contest. In that event, there are about 45 schools throughout the Southeast region who send competitors, and we wish all the best to Bram and hope that he brings back the gold there as well. So once again, I want to thank all of you for taking part in this competition again. And let's have yet another round of virtual applause for all of today's presenters and winners. This was a fantastic event, and I just appreciate all of you taking part of this as audience, as presenters, and it really made it something special. So be well and take care, and we'll look forward to next year's competition. And congratulations again to our three winners, Meredith, Salvatore, and Bram. Thank you.